and her
Sorry, continue, please.
no problem. Yeah, her and her parents had gone through quite a struggle. So I interviewed them, and I was like, you know what? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I had no idea. And
Yeah.
so this is after I had committed to writing and connected with them. I was so motivated. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna raise 5 grand. And in the period of time that they gave us, I raised a little over 3,500 and went and raced. Well, I went and rode. It wasn't a race, so it was a ride. And I went and rode 100 miles around Lake Tahoe on my bicycle. Right? It's crazy. It was crazy. So
That's cool. Was that your first century?
it was my first century. Yeah.
Man, what a place to do it too. It's
Well,
like I used to do a lot of riding, and I'm trying to get back into it. So in fact, I just did my Peloton this morning. And when you told me that, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool, man. He must do this all the time. Like, why am I not doing that? I had no idea it was your first time. That's super cool.
yeah, it was my first ride like that. I had been training for about a year, and I'm really excited to announce I have signed up for a half Ironman in September. So
Woo,
yeah,
man,
you know,
you left me in the dust on that one. I won't join you on that. No way, man. Uh, I'll contribute $5 or $10 or whatever it is to help your cause, but no
I
way, man.
love it. I love it.
If you're gonna do another like joy ride around Tahoe, whatever, with a slow crowd, I might join you, but no, I'm not. You're crazy, man. That's awesome, man. Congrats. That's super cool. What an ambitious goal. I love it.
Thanks, man.
Okay, so let's rewind a second here because there's a lot of people on this call who are logging in going, what the hell did I just stumble into? So everybody, this is JT Taylor. JT, why don't you give us all like the 60-second introduction? Tell us all about, where you, because I know you somewhat well, but I don't even know that much about you, honestly.
Cool.
Um, so
Yeah, right on. I'll share. My name's JT. I have been with Keller Williams for about 8 years now. I used to be a bartender, master mixologist, got to travel around the world and get people drunk for a living. That was a lot of fun. And transitioned into real estate back in 2014. Got into real estate, did a quick stint as as a solo agent. Did great, killed it. Was very close to getting Rookie of the Year, and quickly found that leadership in Keller Williams was my path. I love pouring into people, love sharing how to win in the game of real estate, and make things less fuzzy. Simplify things so that people can just get to their destination faster. I love rock climbing. I'm a sports athlete, or I should say, I love going and doing sports. I'm not a huge sports fan. It actually unnerves me to sit down and watch somebody else play when I can't. I'm a pilot. I'm certified to flight instruct, commercially rated multi-engine single engine. I was actually going to go and fly for the big airlines before the pandemic. I'm sorry, before September 11th. That was the other craziness, right? Right before September 11th, life has been crazy. I'm 47 years old. I have a beautiful wife and a 19-year-old daughter who's currently in London right now, studying abroad. You know how that goes, right? They can drink at 18 over there, so I'm just gonna say there's probably not a lot of studying happening. So that's just a little bit about me, and thanks for having me on, Ed. Appreciate it.
awesome, JC. By the way, you just unloaded like 5 things that I would just love to dive into, but I'm like dying to ask you about rock climbing, bicycling, plane flying, piloting.
Yeah.
All right, well, we gotta keep on to
Stay focused. Stay
we
focused.
gotta stay focused. Squirrel, yeah, right. Especially during a shift. Okay, so thanks for sharing that. So let me ask you this. So tell us. So what market? Tell us what market you're in, and how is the. I imagine the rates are changing everywhere, but what are you seeing in the market out there that might be any different or the same as what we're seeing here in LA?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm in the Vegas market. So we're in the Valley here. We've got 2.5 million people here. Got about 18,000 real estate agents currently, although we're seeing a lot of those go away very quickly. Rates are what they are, and it's interesting. Feds raised, rates lowered, so we got a little bit of a shift there. That was interesting yesterday. We are seeing them go up. This is probably The most challenging part of our shift is that the inventory is starting to creep back up. And we have doubled the inventory in about a month, maybe a little bit more, 6 weeks. And we're seeing quadruple the price reductions that we have in the last 8 weeks to 10 weeks, right? So we used to have about 100, 150 price reductions a week, and we have almost 800 price reductions last week.
Whoa, whoa. That sounds like a lot. I'm sure it sounds like a lot more than what your typical is, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm glad we were diving into this. I was going to ask you a bunch of other things that weren't about the shift. And then with everything happening in the last couple of weeks, I was like, you know what, what other topic is there that everyone wants to, there's no other thing that everyone wants to hear about.
Yeah.
So let's stay on this. So one thing that I like to tell people, maybe you can expand on this a little bit, is because we have a lot of people who are newer, who are starting out.
Mhm.
I started selling real estate in 2010, which was like the most dismal market. By the way, my wife reminded me of this because I was telling her how like the market's shifting and all this, and she and I started together. So it's 2010, and we're on the East Coast, and I distinctly remember because my brother-in-law, we're getting our license. We just gotten our license. And my brother-in-law, who does real estate, he was doing real estate in Texas. And I had this conversation with him, like, I really want to work in the office. I don't want to work from home because I don't, too many distractions and everything. And so, he's like, well, you're new, so I don't know if you're going to be able to get an office or what. I say, so I go to meet up with my team leader, and I'm like, hey man, I just got my license and all. And I know this is kind of unusual, but I'd like to know if it's possible to rent out my own office. I'm totally happy to pay for it and everything. And I just remember he just started laughing. He had the funniest look on his face, and I didn't understand it. And so he takes me out in the office. He's like, which one would you like? There was like more than half that were completely empty. And it just so happened that there was a guy walking out with a cardboard box, Yeah. But I will tell you, and this is what he told me. He's like, look, if you can stick it out, if you can buckle down, downturn markets are the best time to get started, because that is when you build up market share. There's no better time to get higher up in the hierarchy of realtors than in a down market. Do you want to add to that, or what do you want to add?
Yeah,
to that?
it's interesting you say that, because we're actually in knee deep into shift. So we're teaching shift in the market center, and we actually turned it into a workshop, which was really helpful. The agents, I think, really need to be hands-on, and so right now we're spending a lot of time working on building. And in the beginning of the book Shift, if you pull it out, it's in the foreword or maybe the first chapter. There's the law of equilibrium. And Gary Keller states that the law of equilibrium says that when the market perception is good and it looks like real estate agents are making a lot of money, a lot of real estate agents get in to real estate, but they don't really build their skills, do they? They take what comes to them. Well, when it gets a little harder, which is where we're at right now, I think everybody would agree, then they realize, like, oh man, I didn't build my skills. I really don't have any systems models. I haven't built a database. I don't know really how to overcome the challenges that are happening right now. And so they start to peel off. They're like, oh, I got to go get another job. I'm not going to be in real estate anymore. So this is called the time to survive, he says. The time to survive is now. And what, to your point, Ed, in a market shift or in a downward market, you have the opportunity. But he also says this is a time to put extra effort in. This is extra effort time. And so you're not going to build your market share unless you actually increase your lead generation. And if I could say anything, if while you're doing two other things on the computer and you're listening to me, you hear one thing, it's double down on your lead generation efforts.
I love that. Let me ask you a follow-up question on that. What kinds of lead generation you think are ones to double down into, and what are ones that maybe to lay off of as the market's changing?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's an exercise that we've been doing, and it's very simple, right? You can do it in probably about 15 minutes. What you do is, on a sheet of paper or in an Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet, you basically put how many units closed in the last 12 months that you've done. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go, okay, how many came from lead generation effort X, lead generation effort Y, lead generation effort Z, right? And you're going to have a list, right? If you've done 10, 12, 15, 25, 50, you're going to know where those units came from. And then you're going to see that there's a contingent at the bottom that you may be investing in that is returning very little for you, okay? And what you need to do is you need to say, that's it. We don't need that anymore. We're not going to pay for it. We're not going to, invest effort into that, and focus on the ones that are actually working for you, right? The majority, really 1, 2, and 3, okay? And then you need to double down on those, right? So gone are the days of shotgun lead generation. I'm gonna get all kinds of stuff, right? Because in a good market, you're up, you're closing a ton of units. The volume is up. I think everybody's experienced that, and it can cover or mask a lot of mistakes we've been making. And so we really need to get serious about what it is that we're focused on in shift again. And you're going to hear me talk about this. Is all we're talking about right now, everybody. So you're going to hear me reference this book because, the cool thing is Gary Keller wrote this book a decade or so ago, right? And it's so relevant. It's so relevant. So, and we're so lucky, right? We have a manual, but he says you have to find the motivated. I think if you go back and you look all the numbers, you're going to find that homes still sold even through the time that was really tough, right, Ed, when you got into real estate?
Yeah.
There were some homes that actually sold, and there were some buyers that needed to buy, and there's some sellers that needed to sell. Those were the motivated people, right? Yeah. What are you doing to find the motivated people? And then on top of that, I would say, if I may, the message is important, right? What message are we sending to our clients about what's happening in this economy, in this industry, with the rates, on and on and on and on, right? I think that we have a responsibility to create the narrative that's right, not regurgitate the narrative that we're hearing from the news.
I love what you're saying. And it's funny, I was just reading, I don't know if you guys get Keeping Current Matters in your area, but I was just reading the Keeping Current Matters that went out this morning. And it reminded me of something that for a long time, people, the objection a lot of us were getting were like, I would love to sell my house, but where am I going to move to? And, inventory is creeping up. And now the answer is like, oh, well, now you have, when it comes time on the up leg, there's a lot more to choose from. So I love what you're saying, is that it's not bad news for everybody. And it's not a bad market. It's the market. And sure, it's worse than it was before for some people, but we got to remember that some people are going to benefit, some people are neutral to what's going on, and we just got to find those people. There's some people who are sitting on some cash and have been on the sidelines, going like, "Man, I'm not fighting with 30 other people," and they might be able to take advantage now. Are you seeing some of that in Vegas?
Yeah, I put 2 listings up on the market Friday, and encouraged one of my listings to, initially list at 25K less than what they thought they wanted to be at. And I said, in a week, we're going to know whether we're positioned properly. And I said, the house is probably worth 550 to 575. And she goes, okay, let's list it at 575. I shared with her why that might be a problem and what I recommend if you want to really drive traffic and you want to get multiple offers. She said 575. I said, thumbs up, as long as you're willing to understand that in a week, we're gonna have a conversation. Sure enough, right in the middle of the week, we receive a 565. And I said, we need to move fast on this, and I think you should accept it. Well, I'm not very happy with it. I said, well, and here's where I messed up. I'm gonna be transparent with everybody, okay? I didn't ask a really powerful question right here. And I would like to open up the chat, maybe, add the question in the chat thread that you would have asked at that point.
Ooh,
I'd love to read that, because there was a pivotal moment here that I failed at, right? And it taught me a good lesson, Ed, and I'll share my lesson. But what would you have said if your client said, nope, we want to counter that 565 offer to 575. What would you have asked? So
just to be clear, she wanted to counter at list price at 575.
Correct.
Oh, she didn't want to give anything.
No. Well, because in her mind, she thought my house is worth 600, right?
Yeah.
And I'm already giving 25 away.
Yeah.
Right.
So there you go. That's the question. Who's got a question?
So either nobody's listening, Ed, and it's just you and me, or people are nervous. And listen, that's sometimes what happens, right?
So, do you want us to talk, or do you?
Oh yeah, you can talk. Sure, even that's even better.
I mean, like we say. I mean, if she was the only offer, would you really want to lose the chance on the only offer that you have?
Yeah. Anybody else, would they modify that? Because that's really, really close to what I think I should have said. My question would have been, what if the 565 is your highest and best? Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. Both of those are great questions. In my mind, I'm a script junkie, right? I shoot up scripts every week, and it's a shame because like afterwards. This is what I wrote down in my script journal. I said if you were not to get any other offers from here out until we dropped it to 550, would you regret not taking the offer for $10,000? That was the question I wrote down, because we got to quantify it, right? And you guys asked the perfect mindset, right? What if you didn't get another offer? What if you didn't? Would you regret not taking the offer for 10 grand? Right? And so now I asked that question. She's like, JT, we should have taken that offer. And guess what? We dropped it to 550. So I'm gonna answer your question by, what are we seeing? We're seeing things move so freaking fast, right? And it's lightning speed. And that's where I think we could probably segue into, another question that you said you were interested in finding out is, what do agents need to do? Well, they need to understand the market at a high level, Ed. Like, you guys need to be in it, educated, understanding. Like, you need to reach out to your lenders, right? You need to reach out to the board, and you need to find out, what's happening in the industry right now that's really clear, right? What's really, really happening. And so you're educated, right? Make sure you show up in your team meetings, make sure you're reaching out to your broker, those kind of things. Understand the numbers in your MLS. That's number one, because that's ammunition, right? And then number two, brush up on your skills, right? Our job is a skill-based business, and the skill is speaking and asking questions, right? When I was a bartender, my skill was crafting amazing cocktails and building a relationship for the hour that they're at my bar and having a great time, having a fun time, right? They probably wouldn't come back if I was either really bad at having a good time or really bad at making cocktails. It's the same for you, right? You're not going to get to where you want to go without the skill you need to navigate this process through asking great questions and getting them to realize, like this example, that, hey, you probably don't want to leave this offer on the table, especially for 10 grand, when now we're going to be chasing the market, right? So I think those are two really, really important things that real estate agents right now need to focus on. Build your skills and understand the market.
I love that. Just as a reminder to everybody on the call. So, if you haven't taken Ignite for a while and you're like, oh, I'm past that, I don't need that anymore, you might want to look at some of those classes and be like, oh, you know what? My skill level in that particular topic is a 6, and I think I could bring it up to an 8 or a 9. Like, let me drop in there and see what I can pick up and go through the manual, read the material. We have Shift, James Shaw's, so JT James Shaw is coming to our region July 27th to teach Shift as a one-day seminar. You'd be crazy to not go to that class.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on, especially things that are skills-based, not just like, contract stuff is great as well, but especially things that are going to improve your skills, anything that's script related or like a specific lead generation method, like drop in there. Now's a good time to be doubling down on your skills. I love that. Next question I got for you is, what is something, I texted this to you, so you might know this coming up. what is something that you see agents, we talked about things they should be doubling down on and doing more of. What's something that they should be doing less of? What's something you think they should cut back on?
Oh boy, that's so specific to the agent, and so that's a tough one. I'll piggyback real quick on the topic we just finished because I think it's important. The best way to master a skill is to teach it. So if you think you're past it, then I'll ask you, could you teach it? And if you think you can, go ask your team leader and say, hey, listen, I'm passionate about this topic. I'd love to teach this topic. And put together a slide deck and pull all the resources from Keller Williams. And if you don't think you could teach it, then go learn it so you could teach it. And I'll tell you right now, people are going to look at you they're going to look at you as an expert in the industry. And then you can actually say, hey, listen, I just taught this class. And this is what I'm sharing with the agents in my office. What does that make you look like to your clients? Somebody who cares, somebody who comes from contribution, somebody who shows up as an expert in the industry, and somebody who wants to master their craft, right? So, those are the kind of things that you get to do in that regard. So, what should you stop doing? Gosh, it's so tough because, agents really fall into a few traps, right? We just talked about, what you should be doing, really understanding what the market is, and finding out where your lead generation levers are. I would say the opposite of that is you're doing some lead generation that is not getting you a result, right? If your numbers are changing so much, again, you need to track your numbers, and that's a start, right? So start tracking your numbers. Stop thinking that it's okay not to. You're going to know if I'm making 100 calls and I'm not setting an appointment like I used to, right? Because those were not my numbers when I was calling expireds. And I need to do 200 of them, then maybe that lead generation strategy has shifted enough that I shouldn't be spending that much time on it, right?
Yeah.
I would say stop ignoring the fact that there are successful real estate agents out there and you've chosen not to connect with them across the country, right?
Yeah.
By show of yes in the chat, you have a consistent relationship with more than 20 referral agents across the country. Yes, you have more than 20 referral agents across the country. Put yes in the chat.
And if you don't, put no, so we can see and be honest. No shame in the game.
Yeah. This is the issue right here, Ed. Right? We have been Lone Rangers for long enough. And listen, awesome. I'm not too far. Thomas Howard, not sure if that's a first name or last name. You get two of them. We've gone long. We have 180,000 real estate agents in the world with Keller Williams, people. Why are we not building relationships in the major metropolitan areas with other people that might want to send us referrals to LA, might want to send us referrals to Las Vegas, right? Those are pretty major destinations that people want to come to, right? Okay. So in addition, you're going to be able to refer business out and build relationships and get extra money, right? Get referrals. And that's a substantial portion of how you can last, right? How you can survive. So I think stop doing it on your own. Start building relationships. If you're not in alliance relationships with your vendors, and you're not, here's what's happening. You have been referring things to your vendor partners for years, guaranteed. Are they referring to you? Stop just allowing that to happen. Be intentional about it, right? So I'll flip it. When was the last time you called up your referral partner or your strategic alliance partner, vendors, right? I hate that word. So strategic alliance partner. And you said, hey, listen, just wanted to find out how this relationship's going. I know I've sent you X number of deals in the last 12 months. Is that working for you? Awesome. Hey, listen, I've noticed that I haven't received a referral from you yet this year. And for this to work, I just want you to know that I care about your business and I want to feel like you care about my business. Would it be okay to revisit what it would take to get a referral this year from you?
Now that is a powerful question right there. I love that.
Yeah, right. Like,
Hopefully everybody was taking some notes on that. I mean, by the way, in a span of 5 minutes, you've covered two great lead generation strategies, right? Networking around the country. I was gonna, before we talk about the strategic alliance partners, let's talk about, we live in LA. A lot of people move to LA and move out of LA. We're a very, very transient place. We should all have partners in San Diego, the San Francisco Bay Area, probably 3 or 4 in the Bay Area, like San Francisco, San Jose, East Bay, Vegas, possibly New York City, Chicago, Phoenix for sure. Yeah, Phoenix, and possibly Santa Fe. We have so many people moving out there. And by the way, A, it's awesome for business, but B, it's fun. Like, I love keeping in touch with Jay. I have like a handful of people all around those areas in San Diego and stuff. And I love it. So now whenever I go visit these places, I always like, I haven't visited Vegas in a while, but next time I'm out in Vegas, I'm going to be like, JT, man, hey, you want to grab some coffee or, hang out, grab some food or something? Like, it's just, it makes it more fun. It's enjoyable. You can be intentional about this when you go to something like Mega Camp, rather than just hanging out with your pack of your office, which is cool too, but try to branch out sometimes and go sit amongst a whole pack of strangers and ask everyone around you where they're from. Go sit in the front where all like the people who really pay attention are. Go sit and sit around them and ask them like, hey, where are you from? What's business like where you're at? Like, be intentional about these things and build up a network. And then, man, we could go on about the strategic partners, because that's, I love that. That's so cool to be, hold them accountable. If you're giving somebody a lot of referrals, deal after deal after deal, contractors, whatever it is, all those people that we feed business to, it's not unfair to ask them for a little bit back, right, JT?
Yeah, the idea there is that just, stop just allowing real estate to happen. If I could say, that's probably the general answer to that question, is you have to stop just allowing business to come to you. You've got to be intentional. So if you're going to start, because you're going to stop, you got to replace it with something. Otherwise, some other bad habit's going to enter into that space. You're going to start being intentional about your business. You're going to start being intentional about your numbers, your lead generation, the focus, the information that you're sharing, understanding your industry, right? Just be intentional right now. Like, really sit down and put some purpose time on your calendar and say, you know what, I'm going to think about what's happening. Here's a great way to do it, because I've got a call I need to be on in 2 minutes. Here's a great way to think about it, Ed, and I hope your people think about this. It was shared with us on the growth call, so I'm just going to regurgitate this, and it's so simple. Ask yourself, what's the problem? What's the problem with my client? What's the problem in my business? What's the problem with my lead generation? And what's the solution, right? It sounds so simple, right? But sit down and think about it. What's the solution to fix that problem, all right? And then what can I go and do immediately that will get a result such that that problem goes away and I provide a solution to the people or my business or myself, right? And I'll leave you with this, right? I love fitness. I love taking care of myself. I told my daughter when she was young, because both of our grandparents were not able to play with her. She says to me, she goes, Dad, Grandma and Grandpa would never want to play with me, right? They were just unfit. They weren't healthy, right? And they didn't care about that. They came from a different era, right? You ate everything on your plate and it was all bad and just different mindset, right? And so in my mind, I said, oh, that's going to be a problem in the future. The solution is now I need to stay healthy. And in my mind, I said, well, what could I do every day that would help me do that? Right? So I'll be 47 and I'm going to do a half Ironman this year. And that's not bragging. That is an intentional decision to make sure that I show up in the way I want to for my family. Right? So you've got to do the same thing in your business. And I know you can. Every single one of you have the ability to do it. So go do it.
JT, before you take off, I got people texting me and messaging me saying, how can they find JT? He is there you go. There's his number. There's his email. I'd like to thank you so much for being on this call. He's a mixologist. He's traveled the world as a bartender. He rock climbs. He flies planes. He is a man of many talents. He's the most interesting realtor in KW by far. He's JT. If you have anybody going out to Vegas, there's his contact information. JT, always fun. Last time I saw you, we were out in Austin, Texas for the leadership retreat, hunkering down in the basement, avoiding a tornado. And now, it's funny because that was like a big deal to me. And now I'm thinking like that probably happens to JT like once a month.
Like, yeah, whatever.
He was probably thinking like, oh my gosh, I should grab my.
Can I go and look? Yeah, can I go and see this thing? Is this a viewing opportunity?
I'm gonna go ride my bike in the tornado. Yeah, there you go.
Right. That's right. Thanks for having me on, Ed. I really appreciate it. And
Thanks,
you got
JT.
it. People, go get it. All right.
Have a good morning, everybody. We'll see y'all soon. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. So glad you could join us. See you soon.